Welcome back to the Webby O'Neill channel. Plenty to discuss in today's video. Roy Keane's comments on Casemiro, so get involved in the chat because we do want to discuss your opinions in today's video. Now, first of all, how are you feeling today?
Absolutely tip-top. Got over the Liverpool. It's been a week now. Feeling fine. The weather's great. Looking forward to next week. Everything is rosy in the garden, as they say.
Yeah, it is there as well. The sun's out in Manchester. Feeling very warm today, as you can imagine. That's why we're here in the garden. Roy Keane, though, on Casemiro, I wouldn't be writing players off at that age. I've been there when you get to that age. Everyone is quick to criticise you and say your legs are gone. But I wouldn't be writing him off just yet.
You won't be writing him off just yet. Listen, when Roy Keane speaks, you have to listen. But surprisingly, I disagree with him today. He talks about moving Casemiro in a different role. Don't write him off. That role is up front, moving him forward. To me, nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Casemiro's legs have gone. Don't write him off because of his age. He's 32. We clearly see that his legs have gone. He can't do it. He can't turn. He can't run back. And Roy's talking about playing him up front. Doesn't make any sense to me. I think he's been very kind to Casemiro with his track record, all his achievements and everything. I don't think Roy wants to go in on him, and that's not like Roy, because Roy can be brutal at times. We've been brutal on Casemiro, and quite rightly so, because it's the end. Great player, but now the time's up. But Roy doesn't see it. He thinks there's a different role for him.
I actually genuinely, I've got to be honest, I've said in recent weeks on the video that from what I've seen on Casemiro in bits last season and in pre-season, when he does play higher up the pitch, I actually do think he's a better player and he actually suits the way this team plays. And some out there might say it's kind of ping-pong football. We attack, you attack. But I think getting up the pitch, I actually do think he's got an eye for goal. He's got an eye for a pass as well. And I actually do think I would prefer him playing higher up the pitch. I don't mean as a centre-forward, but I mean in that midfield too. Maybe taking Kobbie Mainoo's position. You know, why not play Kobbie Mainoo one half, Casemiro one half, try and keep him a bit fresh, get an impact off one of them from the subs bench and have a Garty in there, because I've said to you recently, I wouldn't be surprised if Eric Ten Hag in some of the games going forward in the season that you see Agati and Casemiro start together. I wouldn't really see a problem with that. And then you're seeing the likes of Kobbie Mainoo coming off the bench with 60 minutes, or them roles reverse where Kobbie starts and Casemiro coming on.
I've no doubt Casemiro will get game time this year, but he's not the first choice starter. It sounds like it's going to be Ugarte and Mainoo. Look, I'm not saying he can't have a role in the side and that he can't go forward. He will be there jumping in for Mainoo coming out or Ugarte, but not as a starting role. Roy's talking about that's why he wants to see him as a role change. For me, I look at it this way. Ten Hag wants a pressing team. That's not Casemiro's. That is not Casemiro's game. We know he hasn't got the legs. We've seen that once he gets turned, he can't get back. I'm not writing Casemiro off. I'm just saying that pushing him forward and giving him that role is an experiment. Look, this is Manchester United, and Roy Keane goes on about Manchester United. We want the best. We should be the best. We should be achieving this, doing this. The right players on the pitch at the right time, and we should have the best players. Casemiro, 32. He's not the best player. He's going forward. He's not the future for these young kids, okay? What's around him, and he's not the future for these players what we signed. I like Casemiro, but time has caught up with him. He has got a role. There's no two ways about it. He's there. We are short. The squad is short of quality, and he will come in and do a job as a squad player now. That's how I see him. And I think Roy is trying to push and be too kind to Casemiro because of his past achievements. That's how I see it.
Yeah, no, I think you've got a point with that last bit about his past achievements, and he's showing him a respect there. I totally get that. But when you're saying he's got a role in the team, in the position he's been playing at Manchester United, in that defensive midfield role, I don't think he really has. And yeah, you look at the Liverpool game, shocking couple of individual errors there. If he doesn't do them, would his performance be like? He does try and give you everything, Casemiro, so that is a plus. He don't just walk around on the pitch. He does try putting the work rate and the effort in. But as we've seen with tackles, I've got my heart in my mouth sometimes when I see him jumping in with that scissor kick, like trying to tackle people. And Yeah, he does get bypassed easily, but I just think playing him further up the pitch, why not give it a go? Try something a little bit different, because you're clearly not going to get any more out of him in that position, what we've seen in that defensive midfield role. And you're looking at the squad overall. I think Roy Keane's looking at that. I mean, there's not really much in there in that midfield, is there? You take Casemiro out, you take Agati out, you take Mainu out. They're our first three players who are going to be starting in that midfield area, in that position. After that, Christian Eriksen, Mason Mount, I do like him. I like his work rate, his energy, leading that press, the intensity going forward. But how many times is he going to be fit this season? It's still a question mark on Mason Mount as well.
Listen, Casemiro's had a pre-season. He's played in the games, experimenting. This is not the time for Erik Ten Hag to experiment. This team needs to be settled, needs to get working together, and the time for experiments and changing. If he thought Casemiro was able to play further up there and do the right things, okay, at his age, he would have already done it in pre-season. I don't think Erik Ten Hag sees Casemiro able to close down around the pitch and get round, as Roy says. Roy says he'd be able to get round the pitch. He won't be able to get round the pitch. I don't know where Roy's coming from when he sees that. It's a pressing team. That's what Erik Ten Hag wants. Now, I look at it, it's an experiment. Do you really expect Man United? Should we expect Man United to be experimenting with players now? What will that look like, especially on the back of a defeat by Liverpool at home? It looks like a sign of desperation. Casemiro will have a role, okay? He's a squad player. He will come on, but he won't be first choice. And to go up there and expect Casemiro to do the closing down and running around and get back, it's not on. He can't do it. He wants a role change, Roy Keane says. Well, we know he can't play at the back because he's too slow. We've seen him as centre-half. Doesn't work at all. Going forward, putting him up there will definitely not work. The experiments have to be over now. Fans are demanding to see a team play football, a structure. We've not got a structure. We need it. And trying to give players, what Roy says, a different role at this stage to a 32-year-old whose legs have clearly gone. I don't see the sense in what Roy's saying when he comes out with that.
Yeah, Akil in the chat says, I think Roy is right. Play Agati, Casemiro and Bruno and bring Mainu on for Casemiro. Clobber Magazine says, we still need Casemiro. We've got a Finn. Well, we're Finn in midfield. Once Agati settles in, Casemiro definitely still has a role to play. And I do agree with them comments. You're talking about pre-season and, this being an experiment. If he does play him in a higher position in midfield, I don't think it's an experiment, you look at all the top teams. I'm not saying we're a top team at the moment by any chance, but if you look at the top teams, they've got players there in the squad who are comfortable playing in 1, 2 or 3 different positions. And I don't think it would be that much of a... I don't think it'd be that much to think that Casemiro can't play in that higher role in midfield because of what I've already seen him do in games. Going further forward, he looks more of a threat than he is defensive-wise, sitting in that position with no one around him. Casemiro needs players around him who are no more than 10, 15 feet away from him. If there's any more than that we've seen in our midfield, he gets left exposed, whereas further up top, he will have players up and around him like the centre-forward and Bruno Fernandes.
A lot of people out there will be disagreeing with what you say and also disagreeing with what I say. I just look at it like this. It's an experiment and it won't work. I cannot see how it will work by pushing Casemiro up there and then leaving a gap. We know the midfield is wide open. I am not disagreeing that Casemiro hasn't got a role in this team, but he's not first choice and he's not there, in my opinion, right, to change role and be a first-team player by playing him higher. That is how I read it. As Roy says, if he comes back into the team, Roy would like to see him in a different role, playing higher. I do not see that happening. I don't see Erik Ten Hag and the coaches changing what they're doing. For me, it's the midfield needs to be tighter. That's the only thing I see the coaches and Erik Ten Hag trying to do. Having Casemiro up there will leave it wide open. He now is a squad player and will play a role, but he will not be first choice. That's how I see it. Roy's not sort of saying, right, he needs to be in the team constantly, playing a higher role.
Yeah.
He's sort of saying if he gets back in the team, and I think he will get back in the team, but I do not see him getting back playing a higher role because we will be wide open, more wide open, and the back four will just be run at with a big gap there. That's how I see it. Casemiro plays in the position what he plays in, and he will play it every now and again. That's how I see it, to give either Kobe Mainoo a rest or even Ugarte. That's how I see it going forward now. We are, as someone says there, if you look at the squad, we are thin on the ground. At one point, we were strong, a strong squad, a strong bench. Now, listen, it looks threadbare as far as I'm concerned. So for me, Casemiro has got a role.
No, he has definitely got a role, and if we had more options from the bench, options actually in the squad, in that midfield, in a defensive midfield role, or that kind of number 8 role, 6 role, I think, you know, it'd be very hard for Casemiro to get into this team.
Yes.
For some of the reasons that we've said and what people have said in the chat and the comments section. But like I say, it's a thin midfield. You've said it out there. And I actually do think he will have a role to play, and it'll be a role more or less. Let's hope he can get up to a decent standard again. And so we can give other players a rest, like Ugarte and Mainoo, because they're going to need it.
Oh, yeah.
The competitions that we're in as well this season, we know we have to put a real fight and a challenge in the Premier League this season. We need to do a lot better than that 8th position that we finished last season. So Erik Ten Hag and the coaches have to come up with something to give players a rest and get the best out of the players, because let's have it right, the manager and the coaches, their job is to get the best out of the squad of players. So you know, let's see that, but it's up to the players themselves. Now, Roy Keane did say at the bottom of that he was surprised he got took off at half-time against Liverpool, and he would have preferred to have seen him go back out in the second half. And it's something that I did mention, you know, with all the experience Casemiro had, it wasn't as though he was lacking in work rate. It was just 2 really poor individual errors, and you would have thought to yourself, go on, son, get back out there and go and put it right. But he didn't come out.
And this is where I disagree with Roy again. Roy's turned around and says he's surprised that he didn't come back out. He should have come back out. No, Roy. The way I look at it, and the way a lot of other people looked at it, and clearly Erik Ten Hag looked at it, as far as I can see, that he was shot, he was gone, he was finished. The game just passed him by. And once it passes you by and your legs and your brain ain't working, and Roy should know this, this is why I'm surprised that I'm disagreeing with him, because to me, he's got it wrong about Casemiro. Casemiro's legs and his head aren't working together, and the game clearly shown that he was too slow. His legs weren't working as fast as his brain, and we know he's got the pass in him, but he couldn't get the pass out. He was being closed, getting caught. The brain and the legs just weren't moving. And I am surprised at Roy. He knows he's 32 and he knows age catches up, and then at some point you have to play a different role. But the role he's suggesting is playing higher, which goes against what I see on the pitch with Casemiro. His brain and his legs aren't working in tandem. So a deeper role would probably normally be the shout for an older player, but with Casemiro, it's a struggle. We know he can't play in the centre half. We know he's struggling there with his tackles. You've mentioned the tackles diving in. Yeah. So it's just a massive experiment. But for Roy to turn round, right, I'm really puzzled by him. How he looks at Casemiro, and I think really when I look at it as a whole, I think he's defending Casemiro's reputation and giving him a little bit of an edge there, as if to say, yes, he can still do it and he can do it in this position. I think it's one great player looking at another player who's won it all and been good for football, and sort of paying respect to him and not dismissing him like Roy does. I mean, I did say Roy is harsh at times, and he can be cruel in some people's eyes, but he's not doing that to Casemiro. He's keeping in there with him, and he's just hoping that he does come back and that there is a role. He's just trying to, for me, I think it's respect from Roy to Casemiro.
Yeah, Arcati says Casemiro's role is a backup / rotate in a double pivot. Martin says, when you look at the top teams' midfield options compared to MUFC, it's really bad. And you know, we're at that stage already with 3 games gone where you're looking at Casemiro being an option behind Eriksen now to come on.
No, I just see...
Is it still in front of Eriksen for you?
No. It just depends who gets injured or who's coming off. Just depends on Erik Ten Hag's tactics. I mean, we've not really seen Eriksen, anything of him in 3 games. So he's clearly not got Erik Ten Hag's eye, as if to say, I need you to do this job, I need you to do that. Whereas Casemiro, you clearly know that he can do a job. It's how long he can do that job. So for me, Casemiro is always in front of Eriksen.
Yeah, so it's looking like at the moment, going into the rest of the season, that it's Agati and Casemiro fighting out for that CDM role, and it's like Kobbie Mainoo and Eriksen fighting it out for that place, with Collier kind of in the background, in the bench, you know, when the best moments are for him to come on.
I think when you look at Collier, and I think when you look at Casemiro now, they're there to give Ugarte and Mainoo the rest. So that in itself is not a bad, because you've got 2 options there, Collier and Casemiro.
Yeah. Anything more to add, though, on Casemiro? I still just think it's a little... I do agree with some of his comments, though. I do think it's a little bit early just to be writing him off. Look, it's some shocking performances by the whole team in the first 3 games in moments, but no, I just think...
No, I think Roy's comments are all down to respect as a fellow professional footballer. I just look at it, though. Erik Ten Hag is under enough pressure as it is right now. We all know that he's got to change the team. The midfield, for me, is a major problem, has been a problem. Always too open, not up there with the forwards, not back enough with the defenders. There is a big gap. But I just look at it, the pressure is really on Ten Hag, it's on the club. The fans are demanding and everything. And you've got young players there. And I really, really feel that experimenting in any position now is over. I've said for a long time, players who play as left-back should play left-back. Players who are right-back should play right-back. There's no more experimenting. Yes, we've got injuries and that. We've got young players there. They don't need to be running round the pitch. They certainly don't when players are there being used as an experiment. And we've got these expensive players what have been bought this summer, and they've got to be introduced to a solid team and know what the tactics are on the pitch. So for me, Erik Ten Hag's under pressure, and he doesn't need Roy Keane telling him that, by the way, this great player of the past can play further up. For me, Roy Keane's got it totally wrong.
Do you think, honest opinion here, do you think Ten Hag is honest in when he's in his press conferences and interviews about Casemiro, that he still wants him here and he can do a job for Manchester United? Or do you just think that's one of them things from a manager, what you'd expect him to come out and say?
I think what you do with managers, you know, sometimes you have to take it with a pinch of salt. Lots of managers back the players regardless. Yes, there has been 1 or 2, but I think he's backing him. He's there. He's going to stay in the squad. He's not being sold anywhere. So he'll just speak highly of Casemiro. And he will talk of his achievements and go, this is a great player. In other words, he's a valuable member. I've heard him say it already, I think last week, that there's a role for Casemiro. He's a good player. I want him. I believe in him. That's what he said. So he's going nowhere, and he will always speak. I've heard him, Erik Ten Hag. He always speaks highly of the players. He just did that about Sancho before he got rid of him at Chelsea.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at here. He speaks highly about players. We've seen it with Ronaldo, De Gea. We've seen it with Harry Maguire, stripped him with the captaincy. He still plays him, though, in games. And he did play at least 30 games, Maguire, last season. Might play the same again this season, but hopefully not with the centre-halves we've brought in this season. But I just think you're looking at the summer. Do you think Erik Ten Hag would have preferred him to walk out the door, Casemiro, get some money in for him and get another midfielder? Or do you think he's genuinely happy, though?
No, I think Casemiro has got an influence in the dressing room. And I think Erik Ten Hag uses him that way. Obviously, through the experience, what he's got. He's seen it, done it all. Roy even says that, you know what I mean? So, no, I think Erik Ten Hag didn't want to get rid of him. I think he wanted to keep him, use his experience. And I've just said, these players coming in here what need bedding in. And we've got young players here, and Casemiro will help these players. So, Casemiro, for me, he should stay anyway. So any talk of him going and all that, these rumours and everything else are just nonsense.
Prod by says Bruno also needs to fix up too. So many misplaced passes and missed chances already this season. And yeah, I will agree with them comments, mate, that he needs to fix up as well, especially with his passing.
I think when you look at the 3 games we've had, you've got Bruno there, missed passes. No two ways about it. He's not the only one. That problem seems to be reoccurring again, and it has to be fixed quickly. I thought we would have overcome that and got it sorted. But what it is, the missed passes. They're trying to thread through. They're trying the ball too long. The players aren't close enough together. And that's why these passes are going astray, because the desperate passes. That's how I see it. A lot of the passes are desperate. Casemiro takes a touch and then he'll take another touch because he's got no one near him to pass it to. And he's trying to do that long ball or the ball straight across the pitch. And that's why he's failing. And Bruno's failing that way. So big problem. It's not overcome and it has to be overcome.
Keith says Casemiro, after 2 errors made against Liverpool, he made a simple pass and the ball went to the ball boy. His head's completely gone and had to be subbed off. Yeah,
that's what puzzles me about Roy Keane. He doesn't understand that. He looks at that first half and he's just looking at 2 passes. I'm not criticised Casemiro for the 2 passes alone. I'm criticising for everything he virtually did. He was getting caught on the ball. He was too slow. Wayward passes here, there and everywhere. The Man United, there was nothing going on in that midfield to be able to create chances for the forwards. The forwards, I thought, were too wide apart as well. But hey, no, Casemiro, it wasn't just 2 passes, what everyone seems to be jumping on, and Roy seems to be pointing that out. It was everything about his game overall. He just seemed to have, lost the plot completely. And that's why I said after the game, on my match reaction, right, he had to be brought off. His head had gone. He was fully shot.
Big decisions then to be making before this Southampton game on the training ground.
There's big decisions every week because there seems to be something what needs fixing every week. Ugati's got to start, just got to start. Your centre-halves and all that. I just look at it and it's like, this is it. Going to Southampton, changes have to be made. Look,
it looks in the centre-half position as well. That actually probably, I don't know about you, but it looks our strongest area, considering what players we've got there to choose from. Obviously, when they're all fully fit as well. But you'd like that to be in the midfield area, surely, that spine of the team, because that's where games are won and lost, as the old saying goes.
Yeah, but it's never won on paper, and it looks on paper that we've got strong centre-halves. Time will tell on that. Yes, I'm confident with that. And to win things, you have to have a solid centre-halves. But at the moment, it's only on paper that they look good. They have got to gel. And that's why I say the time for experiment is over with any player. There's a player, he's a centre-half, play him at the centre-half. There's a player in midfield, play him there. Experiments are over.
Yeah, the life of Riley. We need a midfielder who can string the passes together and keep it all.
Well, we've got what we've got. And if you think there's a player out there what can string it all together, put it together, fine. I just think that the midfield is a good midfield, but it's too far apart and it's not playing in the right way.
Yeah, just like to thank everyone for joining us today, getting involved in the chat. It's been popping off, loads of different opinions in there, which is great to see. If you want to support us and you enjoyed the video, please smash a like on it. And we'll be back, I think, tomorrow or Sunday with a video with my dad, Tony, and Webby. So keep that notification on and we'll see you over the weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.